Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. Life is not about being the loudest in the room. It's about being the sharpest. You want to outsmart the world, you want to rise above the noise, the distractions, the doubt, the fear. Then you need to live by rules, not excuses, not luck. Rules, and today I'm giving you 5 of them. 5 rules for total dominance, not control over others, but mastery over yourself. In a world where people are constantly reacting, often without thinking, emotional intelligence becomes one of the most powerful tools anyone can possess. It's not just about being calm in chaos. It's about understanding your emotions deeply and using that awareness to guide your decisions, your words, and your actions. When you're emotionally intelligent, you're not easily manipulated. You're not thrown off by someone's attitude or the heat of the moment. You don't let temporary emotions create permanent damage. This is the foundation of true power, because those who cannot control themselves are always controlled by others. When someone tries to provoke you, it's often a test. People push your buttons not to know who you are, but to see what controls you. If you get angry quickly, they know how to weaken you. If you get defensive easily, they know how to corner you. But when you have control, true emotional self-discipline, people are left guessing. They can't read you. And in a game of power, being unreadable is often the greatest advantage. People tend to underestimate the calm. They assume silence is weakness, but silence is rarely weakness. It's strategy. Emotional control gives you time to observe, to assess, to strike when it matters most. Now, emotional intelligence isn't just about staying calm, it's also about empathy. It's about reading the room, understanding what others are feeling even when they don't say it. And that gives you the edge, because people reveal more through body language, tone, and emotion than they ever do with words. If you can pick up on what someone isn't saying, you can stay 3 steps ahead. You'll know what they're insecure about, what they're hiding, what they want. And when you know those things, you don't have to overpower them. You can simply navigate smarter. You see the storm before it hits, and you adjust your sail. One of the most dangerous things a person can do in life is allow temporary emotions to create permanent regrets. How many people have ruined relationships, careers, or their reputation because they couldn't control their anger for 30 seconds? How many people have said something in the heat of the moment that cost them everything they had built over years? That's the price of emotional immaturity, and that's why self-control is the real flex, not shouting louder, not reacting faster, but staying composed when everyone else is losing it. That's when your power is the most visible, not in chaos, but in calmness during chaos. Emotional intelligence also teaches you when to speak and when to stay silent. Sometimes silence is the most powerful statement you can make. It shows you are not emotionally invested in nonsense. You're not baited by drama. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You know your worth, and that alone intimidates those who are used to controlling people emotionally. When people can't figure out how to trigger you, they realize they can't manipulate you, and that's when you win. Because you didn't waste your energy proving a point, you used it to elevate your position. It also requires deep self-awareness. You must know your triggers. You must be honest with yourself about what irritates you, what makes you insecure, what makes you lash out. Emotional intelligence means you see those things in yourself, and instead of ignoring them, you work on them. You grow past them, you rise above them, and every time you do, you become less reactive, more strategic, more grounded. You stop seeing people as enemies and start seeing them as mirrors. When someone offends you, you ask yourself, what does that reaction say about me? Why did I let that in? That level of introspection is rare, and rare always wins. Even in conversations, emotionally intelligent people dominate. Not because they talk more, but because they understand more. They see where someone is coming from. They listen not to respond, but to understand, and because of that, they disarm people. They turn arguments into insights. They gain influence not by overpowering, but by connecting, and that's a smarter kind of strength. People follow those who make them feel seen and heard. And emotional intelligence gives you that ability, not through charm, but through authenticity. Power built on intimidation crumbles the moment fear disappears. But power built on self-mastery, on emotional intelligence, remains because it's not based on how others see you, but how deeply you know yourself. When you control your emotions, you can lead without shouting, influence without force, and dominate without ever raising your voice. Most people move through life reacting. They respond to what's right in front of them with little thought about what comes next. They make decisions based on impulse, urgency, or emotion, and then wonder why things keep going wrong. But those who truly outsmart others don't think in the moment, they think ahead. Strategic thinking is not a skill you're born with, it's a discipline you develop. It means you stop making moves just to feel busy and start making moves that actually matter. The key to dominance in any game is not in reacting to what's obvious, it's in anticipating what's hidden. Thinking 2 moves ahead gives you a massive advantage because it allows you to see outcomes before they happen. You don't just ask, what should I do now? You ask, if I do this now, where will it put me later? That simple shift transforms everything. When you think strategically, you stop chasing quick wins and start playing the long game. You don't need to beat someone today if you're setting yourself up to win the war tomorrow. This is how empires are built, not on speed, but on calculated steps that compound over time. Every move you make has a ripple effect. One action leads to a reaction, and that reaction creates a chain. Most people focus only on the action. Strategic thinkers trace the chain. They ask themselves, if I say this, what will they think? If I show this weakness, how might they use it later? If I align with this person, what could that open or close in the future? These aren't questions most people ask, but the ones who do ask them are rarely caught off guard. They don't need to be the loudest or the strongest, because they've already seen the outcome before the game begins. Being 2 moves ahead also means you don't let urgency dictate your decisions. Just because something feels urgent doesn't mean it's important. Strategic thinkers understand this. They're not easily swayed by pressure or impulse. They know that timing is just as important as the move itself. Sometimes the smartest play is to wait. Sometimes it's to act before anyone else realizes what's happening. Either way, it's about being intentional. Random actions lead to random results. Calculated actions, no matter how small, are what lead to dominance. Another powerful element of strategic thinking is understanding your opponents, not to destroy them, but to outmaneuver them. That requires empathy, observation, and patience. You study how they think, what they value, what they fear. You don't need to attack directly when you know their weak points. Instead, you set traps they'll walk into willingly, thinking it was their idea. This isn't about manipulation in a toxic sense. It's about being 3 steps ahead of someone who's only focused on their next move. Outsmarting someone isn't personal. It's preparation, and preparation beats talent every time. Strategic thinkers are also deeply aware of patterns. They notice cycles, habits, and repeated behaviors not only in others, but in themselves. They ask, where have I made this mistake before? What's the pattern here? How can I break it this time? That level of reflection is what separates high-level thinkers from everyone else. They don't repeat lessons, they learn them. They don't just go through experiences, they grow through them. And that wisdom builds with every decision, every failure, every lesson. Eventually, they operate with a kind of clarity others just don't understand. Planning 2 steps ahead also creates a sense of internal confidence. You don't need to second-guess yourself when your moves are backed by logic, intention, and foresight. You're not thrown off when something unexpected happens because you already accounted for it. Maybe not the exact details, but the possibility. Strategic thinking trains you to expect resistance, to build resilience, and to navigate obstacles without panic. Because you've already walked through the scenario in your mind, your real life response is calm, collected, and effective. That level of control commands respect. And perhaps most importantly, being a few steps ahead allows you to create your own path instead of following someone else's. You're not chasing trends, you're setting direction, you're not reacting to other people's moves, you're making the moves that force them to react. That's real power, not because you dominate people by force, but because your clarity makes you undeniable. Your presence disrupts the average. Your decisions create a ripple that others can't ignore. In the end, strategic thinking isn't about being sneaky or manipulative. It's about seeing what others miss, preparing for what others ignore, and choosing moves with the future in mind. It's how you stop playing checkers in a chess world. And once you do, you don't just outsmart people, you outlast them. In a world full of noise, distractions are everywhere. Social media, gossip, news cycles, pointless arguments, and even your own self. Doubt can steal your time, your energy, and your focus. People spend hours reacting to things that don't push them forward, and then wonder why they feel stuck, lost, or overwhelmed. The truth is, most people never reach their full potential not because they lack talent or opportunity, but because they lack discipline. If you want to dominate in life, in business, in purpose, you need to understand one simple principle: starve your distractions and feed your focus. Discipline is not about forcing yourself to do what you hate. It's about training yourself to focus only on what truly matters. Your attention is currency. Whatever you give it to, you're investing in. And the world is filled with people, platforms, and habits designed to drain that attention and leave you empty. When you check your phone every 5 minutes, when you binge content that adds no value, when you argue with people who don't even know your purpose, you're spending your energy on things that will never pay you back. Focus, on the other hand, compounds. When you feed it daily, when you pour your time, energy, and mental space into one mission, everything in your life begins to align around that clarity. The reason most people never master focus is because they try to do too many things at once. They want to be great at everything. But excellence requires elimination. You can't chase 10 goals with average energy and expect world-class results. Dominance comes from doing fewer things better. It comes from clarity, knowing what your purpose is, what your priority is, and what distractions need to die for that purpose to live. Every yes is a no to something else. If you say yes to scrolling aimlessly, you say no to building something meaningful. If you say yes to comfort, you say no to growth. Real power comes from making those decisions with intention. You also have to build an environment that supports your focus. If you surround yourself with chaos, you will absorb it. If you live in clutter, your mind becomes cluttered. If your circle is full of people who are distracted, undisciplined, and uninspired, their energy will pull you down. To stay focused, you must be ruthless with your boundaries. That means creating physical space for deep work. That means saying no to events, conversations, and commitments that don't align with your mission. That means protecting your peace like it's sacred, because it is. Focus is also a fight. It doesn't just happen. It must be defended daily. Some days you'll wake up clear and motivated. Other days, your mind will be flooded with doubt, fear, and excuses. The discipline is doing the work anyway. It's showing up when no one is watching. It's grinding when the results are invisible. Every day you honor your focus is a day you build self-respect. And that inner respect turns into confidence. You don't need external validation when you know you've stayed committed to your vision. That's where quiet power is born, and don't confuse busyness with focus. Just because you're moving doesn't mean you're progressing. Many people fill their days with shallow tasks just to avoid the hard ones. Focused people do the hard things first. They tackle the priorities that move the needle. They ignore the urgent in favor of the important. That's how they create separation. While others are distracted by noise, they are building something solid slowly, steadily, relentlessly. And over time, that focus turns into momentum, and that momentum turns into mastery. Even rest, when used wisely, becomes part of focus. You can't grind forever without breaking down. High achievers know when to retreat, when to recharge, when to reset. That's not weakness, it's strategy. Focus isn't about burning out, it's about sustaining excellence, and that means managing your energy as carefully as your time. You don't pour from an empty cup. You sharpen your mind with recovery, with clarity, with intentional solitude. In the end, every goal you have, every dream, every level of success, every version of your best self, is waiting on the other side of distraction. Most people will never get there because they keep feeding their weaknesses. But you, if you want to rise, if you want to dominate, if you want to outsmart and outlast everyone around you, then feed your focus like your future depends on it. Because it does. Power often disguises itself in silence. In a world where everyone is desperate to be seen, heard, and validated, those who choose to observe rather than speak immediately stand apart. The ones who remain quiet in chaos, who listen more than they talk, who study their surroundings before making a move, those individuals carry a different kind of power. It's not loud or flamboyant, but it's sharp, calculated, and unshakable. Saying less and observing more isn't about hiding. It's about holding your power until it's necessary to use it. The loudest person in the room often has the least control. The quiet one, who sees everything and reveals nothing, is the one who truly dominates. Observation is a form of intelligence. When you choose to watch instead of rushing to react, you see layers that others miss. You catch the hesitation in someone's tone, the contradiction in their words, the fear behind their confidence. While most are distracted by surface-level behavior, you are tuned in to patterns, motives, and dynamics. And because you take your time, your responses are more precise, your decisions more informed, your moves more strategic. People underestimate observers because they mistake silence for weakness, but silence is a decision. It's the decision to speak only when the words will matter, to act only when the timing is right. The truth is, most people speak just to fill space. They try to prove their worth with volume, opinions, or emotion, but real influence doesn't need to raise its voice. It's felt without being forced. When you say less, every word carries more weight. People lean in when you speak because they know you don't waste your breath. They pay attention not because you demanded it, but because your presence already commands it. And in a world that constantly rewards attention-seeking behavior, restraint becomes a rare and powerful tool. Observation also teaches you about yourself. In moments of silence, you become aware of your own impulses. You notice how easily you're tempted to respond, to defend, to correct. But when you practice restraint, you begin to understand that not every attack needs a counterattack. Not every comment deserves a reply. Not every challenge requires confrontation. Sometimes walking away is the most powerful statement. Sometimes watching someone expose themselves with their own words is more effective than trying to argue. Your silence becomes your shield and your mind becomes your greatest weapon. Those who observe more also learn faster. They pick up lessons from other people's wins and failures. They don't need to touch the fire to know it's hot. They watch, they analyze, and they adapt. That efficiency gives them an edge. While others are repeating the same mistakes, they're adjusting their approach. While others are reacting impulsively, they're thinking ahead. Observation turns life into a classroom, and every interaction becomes a lesson. You don't just go through life, you grow through it, one insight at a time. When you speak less, you also control the flow of information. You never give people more than they need to know. You don't announce your next move, your fears, your doubts, or your ambitions. You let them guess. You keep your circle tight and your intentions tighter, because the more people know, the more they try to influence. But when you remain unreadable, you become untouchable. You're not moved by gossip, pressure, or opinion. You're anchored by your awareness, not swayed by noise. That mystery becomes your armor, and people talk. That's what they do. They overshare, they gossip, they expose themselves without realizing it. That's when you, the quiet observer, gather information, connect the dots, and find clarity. You don't react, you store. You don't engage, you calculate. You understand that time reveals all truths and patience exposes all masks. And when the moment comes to act, you move with confidence, not because you're louder, but because you're wiser. In high-stakes environments, whether business, leadership, relationships, or strategy, the person who sees more and says less always holds the advantage. They don't need to be first to speak. They need to be last to decide, because by then they've seen all the angles, all the weaknesses, all the truths hiding behind ego. That level of awareness creates calm, that calm creates confidence, and that confidence, built in silence, speaks louder than any words ever could. Respect is not something you demand with your voice, it's something you command with your presence. It isn't granted because you shout the loudest, dress the flashiest, or show off the most. True respect is earned through consistency, integrity, and strength of character. and once you've earned it, you never have to ask for it. It follows you, it walks into the room before you do. That kind of respect doesn't come from pretending to be powerful. It comes from actually being powerful within. People may not always agree with you, but when you stand for something, when you walk in truth, when you show discipline and dignity, they feel your presence. You don't have to raise your voice, they just know. So many people waste their time trying to prove themselves to others. They crave validation, they chase approval, they want everyone to like them. But dominance doesn't work that way. The ones who truly stand above are the ones who stop begging and start building. They don't wait for people to see their worth. They develop it in silence. They put in the work, they grow through the pain, they stay up when others sleep. They take the losses, the failures, the ridicule, and they keep moving forward. That journey, unseen, uncelebrated, and often lonely, is what shapes someone who can walk into any room and be respected without saying a word. People notice what you tolerate. If you let people treat you poorly, if you allow disrespect and pretend it's nothing, you teach them how to continue. But when you raise your standards first for yourself, then for others you stop being a doormat and start becoming a force. That means setting boundaries, that means saying no, that means walking away from what doesn't honor you even when it's uncomfortable. Respect isn't about pleasing everyone, it's about honoring your values even if it means standing alone. The world respects the one who doesn't compromise under pressure, but respect also isn't about arrogance or dominance over others. It's about humility with strength. It's about being kind without being weak, firm without being harsh. People respect those who treat others well, but also respect themselves. The person who can lead without bullying, speak truth without fear, and stay grounded while rising. That's someone others look up to. Not because they're flashy, but because they're real. And in a world full of fakes, authenticity is intimidating. It's rare, and what's rare is valuable. You never need to announce who you are if you've already shown it through your actions. When you're consistent, people begin to trust you. When you're disciplined, they begin to admire you. When you're accountable, they begin to follow you. Respect is rooted in repetition, who you are every day, not just on your best days. It's how you handle setbacks, how you respond to conflict, how you carry yourself when no one is watching. When your character remains strong in every environment, people learn that you're not just acting, you are that person. That's where real credibility is built. A person who is respected doesn't react emotionally to every insult or challenge. They don't feel the need to clap back or defend every decision. They know their values, they know their purpose, and they understand that most noise doesn't need a response. In fact, sometimes the most powerful reaction is no reaction at all, not because you're ignoring disrespect, but because you know it doesn't deserve your energy. You stay focused on your lane, your mission, your growth, and over time your results become the loudest statement you could ever make. Respect earned over time becomes influence. You begin to lead without asking. People seek your opinion without you offering it. You become the standard by which others measure themselves. That doesn't come from hype. It comes from years of doing the right thing when no one's clapping. It comes from being consistent when it's hard. It comes from being excellent without needing attention. And the more you walk that path, the more undeniable you become. There's a difference between someone who demands respect and someone who embodies it. One is loud, the other is felt. One is temporary, the other is lasting. So instead of asking for respect, build yourself into someone who naturally earns it. Not through force, but through discipline. Not through shouting, but through example. Because the truth is, when you carry yourself like someone who knows their worth, the world has no choice but to recognize it. The greatest form of dominance is not control over others, it's control over yourself. While many chase power by trying to manipulate, intimidate, or outshine those around them, the ones who truly rise are those who have mastered the internal game. Self-mastery is the foundation of all lasting success. It's not flashy, it's not loud, but it is unshakable. When you control your impulses, discipline your mind, and align your actions with your purpose, you become untouchable. Nothing outside of you has power over you, because everything inside of you is aligned and focused. Most people are slaves to their habits, their emotions, and their environments. They are easily influenced by opinions, driven by comparison, and controlled by distractions. One moment they're motivated, the next they're discouraged. One small setback can derail their progress. But when you've mastered yourself, your energy doesn't rise and fall with the world around you. You're steady. You're focused. You operate from principle, not pressure. That kind of person becomes unstoppable not because they never fall, but because they rise every time without hesitation. Self-mastery begins with awareness. You must know your triggers, your weaknesses, your blind spots. Not to judge yourself, but to understand what needs to be sharpened. If anger controls you, you must learn patience. If doubt whispers in your ear every time you try to step forward, you must train your mind to speak louder than your fear. That doesn't happen overnight. It happens through repetition, through discipline, through the decision to show up even when you don't feel like it. Mastery is a process, and the moment you embrace that process, you separate yourself from everyone waiting on motivation to carry them. Discipline is the daily practice of doing what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel. It's the refusal to be governed by moods, excuses, or circumstances. It's waking up when it's easier to sleep in. It's choosing growth over comfort every single time. Most people crave ease, but ease never built a warrior. Ease never built a leader. Everything you want: peace, confidence, respect. Success is waiting behind the wall of discipline. And when you develop it, when it becomes your lifestyle, you don't need to force success. You attract it. Self-mastery also means taking full responsibility for your life. No more blame, no more excuses. You own your story, the good, the bad, and the lessons in between. That ownership gives you power, because if your situation is someone else's fault, then your freedom is in their hands. But if you take accountability, you can change everything. You can rewrite your story, rebuild your habits, reframe your mindset. That's the kind of power that doesn't fade, it grows, and the more you exercise it, the more control you gain over the outcomes in your life. Mastering yourself also means learning how to be alone without feeling empty. So many people stay in toxic situations, cling to noise, or chase attention because they're afraid of being alone with themselves. But solitude is where you find your power. In silence you hear the truth. In stillness you meet the real you. And when you become comfortable in your own presence, when you know who you are and what you stand for, you stop chasing things that don't align with your path. That kind of clarity makes you unshakable, because you no longer need approval. You are already grounded in purpose. Even your thoughts must be mastered. The mind is a battlefield, and if you don't learn how to command it, it will command you. It will convince you to settle, to shrink, to play small. But when you discipline your thoughts, when you catch negativity and replace it with truth, you begin to shape your reality. You begin to build a mindset that's built to endure storms, rise through struggle, and stay focused through chaos. That's what gives you the advantage. Not just intelligence, not just skill, but mental discipline. The truth is, the most dangerous person in any room is not the loudest, the biggest, or even the smartest. It's the one who has conquered themselves, the one who doesn't flinch under pressure, the one who keeps moving when it's hard, the one who knows when to speak and when to remain silent. That kind of person doesn't just win battles, they end them. Because no one can defeat the person who's already won the war within. Self-mastery isn't glamorous. It's quiet, consistent, and often unseen, but it's what separates the average from the elite, the ones who get stuck from the ones who rise. When you master yourself, you stop needing to dominate others because your presence alone speaks volumes. You don't need to chase validation or power. You become the source of it.